That's awesome. You're great. So Tim has agreed to sit down for a fireside chat. Tim, are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'm gonna be, yeah. A little scared, but I'm ready.
Uh-oh, well, let's have a little bit of fun here. So we've got a lot of questions that inquiring minds want to know. But first, we're calling this a fireside chat, so I think we should set the scene.
Okay.
We ready? Let's see if this works.
Oh, we're using high tech.
Yeah, we're being bold. See? It worked. I love it. So while the fire heats up and gets us going a little bit, how about a rapid round of quick fire? Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Not really anybody who knows me, that's not really a question. It's the Beatles and then everybody else.
We've got to start with an easy one, okay?
All right, okay.
Okay. Movie or book?
Book, actually some of my favorite authors are Michael Conley, John Grisham, and other authors like that. So I'll go for the book.
Okay, perfect. Cheeseburger or pizza?
They're getting harder. Actually, I like both things, but you know what? I can do a burger anytime, so I'll go with burger.
Me too. Okay, here's a really tough one. Climb a mountain or skydive?
Not skydive. I do some mountain climbing, though. I can do Camelback Mountain, Diamond Head, and things like that, but nothing beyond that. So that's my limit.
Okay, that begs the question: Maui or Oahu?
Maui.
Oh. Okay, guitar or ukulele?
Ukulele, and actually, I can add on to that. I'm actually taking ukulele lessons right now, so I want to become a much better ukulele player. So that's definitely ukulele.
I love it. A chairman with some musical intuition. Favorite charitable cause?
That's a pretty easy one, too. Our bank has been a supporter of Make-A-Wish for over 20 years now, and we've been able to raise over $500,000 to help children with life-threatening illnesses that live in our area. And when you see the impact, particularly on the families of these people, it's really a heartwarming thing, and it's something I'm really, really proud of that we've done.
Thank you. Stories like that are so inspiring, and obviously I know, Tim, that you do so much to engage in your community, which really leads to the question. You were already an incredibly busy community banker, very active in your community, father, grandfather. Why in the world would you add more to your plate and take on the role of ICBA chairman?
Well, look, I love community banking, and I love being a community banker. And I was raised saying that you need to be responsible and support the things that you believe in, and also that you need to give back to the community. If you're fortunate enough to be in a position where you can do anything like that, you have a responsibility to help others. So this is one way I can give back to ICBA and all the communities that are out there, and try to help all the community bankers that are out here. It's relatively easy, because when it's really gratifying to see the results.
Yeah, and you obviously love what you do. So you've traveled this year from coast to coast, speaking in front of community bankers. What sticks out in your mind as the most memorable experience?
Boy, I don't think there's one memorable experience, but I think there's an overarching theme there. That when you meet with all these community bankers, and many of the people in the room I've been lucky enough to meet with, and you understand that community bankers are just dedicated to their customers and communities. I heard story after stories of how they work with individual customers and help those customers achieve their goals. And actually, what I've said oftentimes is community bankers make dreams come true, and I've been able to hear about a lot of those dreams coming true. So that comes through, and then you get the feeling, and you know that community bankers generally care. They don't expect any recognition or special thanks for what they do. They just go out every day and do what they're supposed to do. They're connected with their communities, and they genuinely help people. They don't give people things they don't need. They give people things that people need help with. And so that reinforces any decision you need to spend the time and energy going out there and meeting and doing what we do with ICBA. So
well said. So I'm curious, any highlights that really stand out over the course of the last couple of years?
Well, one is I got to go to Tokyo late last year to participate in a seminar on international banking, and my theme was shared values. And I was able to speak to a room full of Japanese bankers and journalists and people associated with the industry, and explain how community bankers have shared values with their communities. There's this big connection between the community, community bankers and their customers, and that thing keeps repeating itself over and over again. And then I explained about the community bank system in the United States, and Japan doesn't have a system like that. It's mostly just a couple of big banks, and so it was interesting. We had to actually shut the questions off after my presentation because they were so curious about our system, and it was so unique, and they kept saying, why don't we have a system like this? You know, this is great. This is the way banking should be. So that's clearly a highlight.
This is the way banking should be. I love it. It's so true. But we forget how unique our system
Absolutely.
is.
Until you go someplace and they have no clue, basically.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So during your year as chairman, we got S2155 over the finish line, signed into law after years of ICBA advocacy. What does this victory mean for community banks?
Well, it solidified the difference between the community bank business model, which is a relation-based model, and then the big bank model, which is a transaction-based model. And we kept driving that point home for 8 years. And finally, we got to the point where policymakers understood that community banks are really different and unique. And so once we convinced them about that, that really made a big difference. And frankly, as you and I have talked many times, what pushed it over the edge was actually everybody in this room and the other community bankers out there that made those contacts out in their communities, out in their districts with the members of Congress, and told their stories and convinced them the great work that we're doing and how this regulatory burden was really limiting what we could do. So we got that message out there, and that was the clincher.
Told their story and it worked.
Exactly.
Awesome. I love it. How do you think 2155 will impact our industry and communities in the future?
Well, it was generational regulatory relief. I mean, we've got things, there's a whole lot of provisions in there, but the things that stand out right this second are, there was a lot of mortgage relief in there, mortgage lending, call report relief, capital relief. We got the expanded 18-month exam cycle that actually my bank is benefiting from right now. So we had a breather for an additional 6 months before the next exam. So I'm even just thrilled about that one. So, but if you look at it, there's a whole lot more in that bill that got passed. So we're not done, but at least it was a great start.
Certainly. Picking up on that note, we're not done, still more work to do. Last year on stage, I remember you vividly, and you talked a little bit about it this morning too, about engaging with your fellow community bankers, telling them, come with us to Washington, D.C., tell your story. Why is that so important to you in the context of we still have more work to do?
Well, for a couple reasons, I think. Active engagement by community bankers is what makes a difference. That's what I just referred to when I was talking about the thousands of letters, the petitions that were signed, the letters that that's what got us over the finish line. And we're also aware that all the other trade groups, everybody else is doing heavy lobbying, and it's getting higher and higher and higher. And look, from my standpoint, my first choice is not to go do advocacy and not go visit people up on the Hill and things like that. But I realize it's actually almost part of our job now, because if you don't stand up for what you believe in and you don't stand up for your industry, these other places are heavily doing that, and we're going to get run over like a bulldozer. So we need everybody out there to get involved, and whether you like it or not, you need to do it, because if you care about your bank and you care about your community, you're just going to swallow hard and go out there and do it. That's my feeling. So,
thank you. Tim, it's obvious that you're very passionate about this industry and do whatever it takes to support us. In your mind, what is the defining characteristic of community banking?
Well, community banks are relationship lenders. They care about their customers, and they listen, and they don't tell customers what they need. They listen to what the customers tell them they need, and that's something that our competitors just can't do. They're on a mission, they have to create transactions, and they lose all that. And so community banks make loans that don't fit in the mold. We use this, we talked about this when we were talking with FASB about how you can't have this one rule that fits everything, because community banks, a lot of the loans we made, each one is an individual loan. It's not like the last one that you made. And then we have, we have a lot of, I talking about shared values when I was in Tokyo, and we're sharing our values with our customers and communities in good times and bad. And so that's what separates community banking from the other type of banking.
Yeah. I love as you talk about this concept, no two loans are exactly alike. And I think even at FASB, you used a couple of interesting examples of some different types of loans. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Maybe you or a couple others in the room?
Yeah, we talked about a couple loans that the FASB, actually, they were in shock, actually, that we talked to them about that. But so we said, look, we make loans that other people don't make. And we said, we have community banks out there that have made loans on worm farms, carrier pigeons, homing pigeons, and things like that. Actually, Lucas White, who I know is here, his bank made a loan on homing pigeons. And that's not one that FASB was ready for, or anybody else, the regulators we talked for. So, and I think you're actually the community banker that made the loans on the Earthship houses, right? I mean, isn't that?
That's true. Yes, houses made out of beer cans and recycled tires. Who else but a community banker is going to do that, right?
Right.
Okay, crystal ball sitting in front of us here. Where do you see community banking 20 years from now?
Well, I think community banking is going to be healthy. I think it's going to be high tech and high touch. Basically, it's going to be a lot more high tech, and that's why we got involved with the ICBA Think Tech Accelerator. That's really a game changer, and I was really proud that ICBA was on the front edge of that, and we were willing to make a significant investment and get involved in that to try to develop software that is specifically for community banks. We're never going to lose our relationship part of that. That's the thing that I know will never change, but we're going to use high tech to help that. And that's going to, what differentiates us is that relationship. And also, community banks are small enough, and we're making the decisions right there. We're nimble enough. We can make changes when innovation needs to be made, but never giving up on the core values that we have. So we're not stopping anything from happening. We know what we can accomplish, and we are always out there on the mission of helping our customers and the communities in our nation. So it's actually going to be an exciting time. It's going to look a little different than it does today, but community banks are going to do really, really well.
Yeah. Okay, here's a tough one. Favorite ICBA moment of all time?
Oh boy. Well, do I get to like phone a friend or something?
I think you have a few of them out here.
Okay, well, I think the one thing that stands out for sure is when back in the spring of 2017, where there were 100 ICBA leadership bankers got invited to the White House. And I think I want to emphasize the fact that we were invited to the White House. We didn't ask for a meeting at the White House. We have come such a long way with ICBA now that ICBA is so respected, and they want to know what we have to say about things. They want to know what our opinion is. And so we were invited to the White House, and we had contact with the president, the vice president, and a number of other key figures that day, and it was all about community banking. That was still when we were working on regulatory relief. So that really stands out. And actually, I think it wasn't just a big moment for me, but I'll bet you, can we bring the house lights up? And anybody who was at that White House meeting, can you please stand? If you were actually attending, there's got to be a bunch of people here who were at that meeting.
Oh, look at that.
Was that a proud moment?
Yeah. It was a fantastic moment. It really was.
And I might have another high point from my year, and it might embarrass you a little bit, but I think a high point. I know you didn't ask me that question, so I'm going to flip things. So anyway, I really think that one of the high points of the past year for me, and I believe for a lot of people sitting out there watching, are when we finally made this decision about who we were going to get to replace Cam Fine, and we picked a person named Rebeca Romero Rainey. I'm doing the same thing. That wasn't in the script.
Okay, we're going to be nice now. Thank you. The hardest question for the last.
Okay.
So if you could give one piece of advice to someone considering a future in community banking, what would it be?
Okay, so if you're looking for a profession that you can actually be legitimately proud of what you're doing, if you genuinely like helping people with what they need and being their financial expert, and if you love things that are local and meaningful, then I think community banking is for you.
So well said. So now it's my turn to go off script. So folks, over the course of this last year, our chairman, Mr. Tim Zimmerman, has not only given of his time, his energy, time away from the bank, but has so selfishly committed to support myself and our incredible team. Tim, you are an body of what makes community banking what it is. The attention to detail, the willingness to make the time, to commit, say yes, no matter what the request is. You have made a difference. You are my first chairman. For that, I will be forever grateful. And folks, I think we owe a tremendous round of applause and acknowledgement for our leader this year, Mr. Tim Zimmerman.
Thank you. Thank you. You went off the script. Thank you.
He did a great job, didn't he?